When was the last time you heard anyone talk about Confederate motorcycles with the energy the brand used to create? Almost never. And that says everything. There was a time when this name represented the absolute pinnacle of American motorcycle craftsmanship. Hand-built machines that cost more than most people's houses, featured in museums, and coveted by collectors worldwide. For years, Confederate felt like a guarantee of exclusivity. If you wanted the ultimate statement piece, you bought a Confederate. The momentum was real, and the brand rode it all the way to six-figure price tags. But momentum only lasts if you can actually sell what you're building. Production stayed microscopic. Pricing eliminated 99.9% of potential customers, and the motorcycle world moved on. The name stayed familiar among enthusiasts, but the influence faded. So today's question is simple. How did Confederate rise to represent the absolute peak of motorcycle artistry, and what pushed it into a slow but undeniable collapse? To understand Confederate's implosion, we need to grasp what it represented during its golden era. The premium motorcycle landscape of the 1990s was relatively simple. Harley-Davidson dominated the market with their $15,000 to $25,000 offerings, while custom builders occupied the next tier up, charging between $40,000 and $60,000 for one-off creations. But above that price point, a vacuum existed. This gap at the ultra-premium end represented an opportunity. While motorcycle enthusiasts had their needs met, no company was catering to ultra-high-net-worth individuals seeking the mechanical equivalent of fine art. Confederate identified this void and positioned itself differently from day one, not as another motorcycle manufacturer competing with Harley or Ducati, but as a luxury brand creating functional sculptures that happened to have engines. Confederate's founding philosophy fused art with engineering in a way the motorcycle world had not seen before. These were not just transportation devices, they were statement pieces that belonged equally in museums and on the road. This positioning allowed them to transcend traditional motorcycle pricing structures entirely. When museums began acquiring Confederate motorcycles for permanent collections, it validated this approach and established critical credibility in luxury circles where price sensitivity barely existed. The company's production philosophy reinforced this exclusivity. While mass manufacturers produced tens of thousands of bikes annually, Confederate deliberately limited production to just 50 to 150 units per year. Each motorcycle was meticulously hand-built, requiring hundreds of hours of craftsmanship. This scarcity not only justified the premium pricing, it became a selling point. For collectors accustomed to limited edition watches, rare art pieces, and one of 50 supercars, Confederate's production numbers made perfect sense. Confederate's origin story defies motorcycle industry convention. Most motorcycle companies begin with racing enthusiasts or mechanical engineers with gasoline in their veins. Confederate started with Matt Chambers, a former aerospace engineer who approached motorcycles from an entirely different perspective, as sculptural opportunities rather than transportation devices. When Chambers founded Confederate in 1991, his vision was not to build better motorcycles than existing manufacturers. It was to create motorcycles worthy of display in the world's finest museums, while still being fully functional machines. This fundamental distinction separated Confederate from every other motorcycle brand on the planet. The company's early breakthrough came with the Hellcat model, featuring a revolutionary aluminum monocoque frame that caught the industry's attention. Unlike traditional tubular frames, this aerospace-inspired approach created a distinctive aesthetic while delivering exceptional structural rigidity. The engineering was not just different for difference's sake, it represented genuine innovation that even technical purists had to respect. Confederate's rise accelerated through strategic partnerships that further distinguished the brand. Rather than sourcing components from traditional motorcycle suppliers, they collaborated with aerospace manufacturers and luxury material specialists. Components machined from solid aluminum billet, carbon fiber panels produced by Formula One suppliers, and titanium fasteners from military contractors found their way onto Confederate motorcycles. These partnerships elevated production costs dramatically, but created machines unlike anything else on two wheels. Media coverage reflected this distinct positioning. While most motorcycle manufacturers chased coverage in enthusiast publications, Confederate appeared in high-end lifestyle magazines alongside luxury watches, private jets, and architectural masterpieces. Features in Robb Report, Architectural Digest, and the Wall Street Journal positioned Confederate as a luxury lifestyle brand first and a motorcycle company second, exactly as Chambers intended. Confederate's ascent reached its zenith with the 2007 unveiling of the Wraith. If previous Confederate models pushed boundaries, the Wraith obliterated them. Its carbon fiber spine frame, machined aluminum components, and otherworldly appearance created a sensation that rippled far beyond motorcycle circles. Here was a machine that looked like it had been teleported from 20 years in the future, and priced accordingly. The validation of Confederate's artistic approach came years earlier when the Guggenheim Museum acquired a 2003 Hellcat for its permanent collection. This institutional recognition legitimized motorcycles as art in a way no other manufacturer had achieved. When the Museum of Modern Art followed suit, Confederate gained the ultimate credential to justify its pricing strategy. How many other vehicle manufacturers could claim to have their products displayed alongside Picasso and Warhol? Celebrity ownership provided further cultural cachet. Brad Pitt commissioned multiple Confederate motorcycles, while Tom Cruise, Nicolas Cage, and numerous tech entrepreneurs joined the exclusive ownership club. When these cultural influencers chose Confederate over other status symbols, it reinforced the brand's position at the pinnacle of mechanical luxury. The engineering innovations during Confederate's peak years were genuine. Carbon fiber bodies, titanium components, and aerospace-grade aluminum created revolutionary motorcycles that could not be mistaken for anything else. The P-120 fighter introduced structural components that doubled as aesthetic elements. The X-132 Hellcat used massive engine cases as stressed chassis members. These were not styling exercises. They were fundamental rethinkings of motorcycle architecture. Confederate's pricing achievement during this period was extraordinary, successfully selling motorcycles for $150,000 to $185,000, when most premium production motorcycles topped out at $40,000, represented a pricing paradigm shift. Even more remarkably, these machines often commanded waiting lists with substantial deposit requirements. For a brief moment, Confederate achieved what many considered impossible. The company was pricing motorcycles alongside exotic automobiles, rather than other two-wheeled machines. The brand's industry recognition extended beyond motorcycle circles. Confederate won international design competitions and was featured alongside Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Bentleys in luxury publications. This crossover appeal meant Confederate was no longer being judged against other motorcycles, but against luxury goods broadly, exactly where Chambers wanted the brand positioned. By 2010, Confederate faced a paradoxical problem. Their success was real, and it was insufficient. Despite recognition, museum placements, and six-figure pricing, fundamental business realities began catching up with the company's ambitious vision. The production limitations that initially created exclusivity became an existential liability. An annual output of just 50 to 150 motorcycles, regardless of price point, could not generate sufficient revenue to cover development costs and operational expenses. While luxury car manufacturers could spread development costs across thousands of units, Confederate's intentionally minuscule production meant each bike needed to generate enormous profit margins just to keep the lights on. The market size reality proved sobering. The intersection of serious motorcycle enthusiasts and individuals with $150,000 plus in discretionary income for a weekend toy was dramatically smaller than Confederate had projected. Even among ultra-high net worth individuals, motorcycles rarely topped the luxury acquisition list. The potential customer base numbered in the hundreds globally, not the thousands Confederate needed for sustainable growth. Economic sensitivity further constrained this already limited market. The recession of 2008 eliminated many potential customers from the ultra-luxury market entirely. Even among those whose wealth survived intact, conspicuous consumption of $150,000 motorcycles felt tone-deaf during a period of widespread economic suffering. Confederate's order book thinned precisely when they needed it most. Practical ownership challenges emerged as another obstacle. Confederate's limited dealer network and specialized components made maintenance and service impractical for many buyers. Unlike Ferrari or Porsche owners who could find qualified service almost anywhere, Confederate owners often faced shipping their machines hundreds or thousands of miles for routine maintenance, a significant deterrent for potential buyers. Perhaps most critically, Confederate faced competition not from other motorcycle manufacturers, but from established luxury brands across categories. Customers choosing how to spend $150,000 on personal indulgence often opted for Ferraris, Porsches, limited edition watches, or fine art over motorcycles. Confederate wasn't competing against Harley-Davidson or Ducati. They were competing against Patek Philippe, Ferrari, and Sotheby's art auctions. Confederate's leadership understood they needed more customers, but their solution would test whether exclusivity and accessibility could coexist, a tension that luxury brands have always struggled to manage. In 2015, Confederate made the momentous decision to rebrand as Curtis Motorcycles. The stated rationale involved distancing from the Confederate name's controversial associations, but the real agenda ran deeper, creating a platform for expanded market reach while maintaining premium positioning. This rebranding represented a fundamental strategic pivot rather than a simple name change. The electric motorcycle pivot formed the technological cornerstone of this strategy. By shifting toward electric propulsion, Confederate Curtis hoped to attract environmentally conscious luxury buyers while maintaining their design-focused approach. Electric motorcycles also offered simpler construction with fewer moving parts, potentially allowing higher production volumes without sacrificing quality or design integrity. Expanded production goals accompanied this pivot. Plans called for increasing annual production from under 150 units to 500-plus motorcycles, a dramatic scaling that would require entirely new manufacturing approaches. This volume increase aimed to create sustainable business fundamentals, while theoretically maintaining exclusivity through premium pricing. New model development accelerated to support these ambitious plans. Rather than focusing resources on perfecting one platform, Confederate Curtis invested in multiple new designs simultaneously. The Hades, Zeus, and other electric concepts represented fascinating design exercises but spread the company's limited resources dangerously thin across multiple unproven platforms. The pricing strategy became increasingly confused during this transition. Confederate Curtis attempted to offer entry-level models at $75,000 while keeping flagship bikes priced at $185,000. This two-tier approach risked cannibalizing their premium offerings while still pricing the accessible models beyond reach for all but the wealthiest buyers. The Curtis rebrand officially launched in 2017 with grandiose promises of electric innovation and expanded accessibility. The immediate market reaction revealed the challenges of this strategic pivot. Market confusion proved immediate and severe. Existing customers and enthusiasts did not understand the name change or the electric direction. Was Curtis the same company as Confederate? Would they continue producing the iconic gas-powered machines? The messaging remained unclear, creating uncertainty among the brand's most loyal advocates. Production delays plagued the new electric models from day one. The promised deliveries of the Zeus, Hades, and other electric concepts missed deadline after deadline. What began as months of delays stretched into years, damaging credibility with potential customers who had placed deposits. Unlike Tesla, which successfully leveraged production delays as evidence of overwhelming demand, Curtis lacked the market position to convert delays into desirability. An identity crisis emerged as the company struggled to define itself. Was Curtis a motorcycle company, an electric vehicle startup, or a luxury art manufacturer? The brand messaging vacillated between these identities, creating confusion across all stakeholder groups, from potential buyers to investors. Customer defection accelerated as traditional Confederate enthusiasts felt abandoned by the electric pivot and rebranding. The raw mechanical nature of Confederate's gas-powered machines had attracted a specific type of enthusiast who valued the visceral experience of internal combustion. These loyalists saw little appeal in silent electric motorcycles, regardless of design innovation. Investment challenges compounded as Curtis sought additional funding. Investors questioned the viability of ultra-premium electric motorcycles, a market segment with no proven demand. While electric motorcycle startups like Zero successfully raised capital by targeting broader markets with more accessible pricing, Curtis remained committed to the ultra-premium positioning that limited its potential customer base. Between 2017 and 2020, the consequences of trying to be everything to everyone became increasingly apparent. Confederate and Curtis had attempted to maintain exclusivity while expanding production, preserve premium pricing while entering new market segments, and pioneer electric technology while honoring their mechanical heritage. This strategic overreach ultimately proved fatal. The financial burn rate became unsustainable. Industry analysts estimated the company was burning through $2 to $3 million annually, with revenue of less than $10 million from limited sales of remaining gasoline-powered inventory. With no electric models successfully reaching production, the company essentially operated without a viable product while maintaining the overhead of an ambitious manufacturer. The inevitable production shutdown announcement came in 2020. Confederate and Curtiss announced an indefinite production halt due to funding shortfalls, the corporate equivalent of life support. While not officially declaring bankruptcy, the company effectively ceased operations as a going concern, with no clear path to resuming production. Asset liquidation followed as the company sold manufacturing equipment, intellectual property, and remaining inventory to cover outstanding obligations. The machines that had once commanded museum placements and six-figure prices were now being liquidated at fractions of their original value, a stark illustration of the gap between perceived value and market reality. The total investment loss over the 29-year history of Confederate and Curtiss reached staggering proportions. Industry estimates suggest over $100 million was invested across various funding rounds, acquisitions, and development programs, with minimal return to investors. What began as an ambitious artistic vision ended as a cautionary tale of luxury brand overreach. The brand dissolution became official when Curtiss Motorcycles ceased operations entirely, ending the Confederate legacy. What remained was a scattered collection of motorcycles in private hands and museums. They were impressive mechanical artifacts of an ambitious experiment in ultra-luxury motorcycle manufacturing. The collapse of Confederate and Curtiss resulted from three critical strategic miscalculations that combined to create a cautionary tale for luxury startups in any category. The first fatal mistake was market size miscalculation. The company assumed the ultra-luxury motorcycle market was substantially larger than it actually was. Insufficient research into customer behavior and purchasing patterns led Confederate to believe a sustainable business could be built around six-figure motorcycles. The reality proved different. The intersection of motorcycle enthusiasm and ultra-high net worth individuals willing to spend $150,000 plus on two wheels represented dozens or hundreds of potential customers globally, not the thousands needed for sustainable operations. The second critical error involved production philosophy. Confederate maintained artificially low production numbers that prevented economies of scale while requiring premium pricing that eliminated most potential customers. This approach created a mathematical impossibility: too few customers at too low a volume to sustain the business, regardless of unit profitability. When Curtiss attempted to correct this by increasing production targets, they undermined the exclusivity that justified their pricing to begin with. The third mistake centered on identity confusion. Confederate and Curtiss attempted to serve multiple markets simultaneously: art collectors, motorcycle enthusiasts, and electric vehicle buyers without understanding any of them deeply enough. The company became caught between conflicting priorities, maintaining heritage while embracing new technology, preserving exclusivity while expanding accessibility, and balancing artistic integrity with business fundamentals. That strategic confusion left them without a clear value proposition for any customer segment. Confederate spent 29 years proving that being the best is not enough. If being the best means being irrelevant, maybe that's the real lesson. Exclusivity without accessibility is not a business strategy. It's an expensive hobby. The current state of Confederate Curtiss represents a cautionary tale. No Confederate or Curtiss motorcycles remain in production, with the brand existing only in collector circles and museum displays. The motorcycles themselves, once revolutionary, now serve primarily as artifacts of a failed experiment in ultra-luxury manufacturing, rather than as influential designs driving the industry forward. The market response has been equally telling. The ultra-premium motorcycle segment remains largely vacant, with no company successfully filling Confederate's former position. While brands like Arch Motorcycle and Browse Superior operate in the $80,000 to $120,000 range, none have attempted to occupy Confederate's former price point. The void Confederate once filled remains empty, suggesting the market may have been correct about the segment's viability all along. The broader lesson extends beyond motorcycles to all luxury ventures. Luxury brands must balance exclusivity with sufficient market size to sustain operations and growth. Scarcity creates desirability, but excessive scarcity eliminates viability. Confederate achieved the former while failing at the latter, creating desirable products without a sustainable business model to support their creation. So here is my question to you. In a world where exclusivity drives desire, how exclusive is too exclusive? I am curious to hear your thoughts. Confederate's crash that cost $100 million proves luxury demands. Balance. Exclusivity without sustainability isn't business. It's bankruptcy. Are your favorite brands next? Comment below.